Smoking a ditch in this video. Oh, Uncle Joe, he's in a terrible spot, isn't he? His poll numbers, his approval rating is in the mid to low 30s. He's at the point to where I said if he got to, I see that as unrecoverable territory for Joe Biden. And I see it that way now. I still see it that way. If there were an election held today, Joe Biden would lose in a landslide. That's no hyperbole as Biden would say. He's underwater in some of the most crucial, severe swing states all throughout the industrial Midwest. He's underwater in all those states, including some of the swing states he picked up, like Arizona, like a Georgia, that just gave him that solidified, undeniable victory. He's underwater there. You see, deep state aristocrats in this country, they don't care. They're stubborn people. They believe even if they run a Biden or a Kamala Harris, they're still gonna pan out. They're still gonna win. They're gonna come away with a victory, all because they're stubborn and all because they don't want a better, more universal society for the people. They want to avoid that type of reality. Running a candidate like a Bernie Sanders or maybe even perhaps a Elizabeth Warren. Anyways, I have still rancor vibes about Warren myself because of what she did in 2020, saying that Bernie told her she couldn't win because she's a woman, which different conversation for a different day. But still, they want to avoid running those type of candidates. Perhaps an Ed Murkey from Massachusetts. They want to stay away from all those type of traditional progressive candidates. They don't want America to turn into that. It will be a proletarian society that really focuses on the rights of people, that enhances the rights of people through the means of government, using the means of government to actually help the people. This is what this fight has turned into in America, because if it wasn't that, the Democratic Party, they wouldn't be so reluctant, they wouldn't be so naive and stubborn to stick with Biden, to really go down this losing hole, to really go down this losing drain. It's an inevitable loss for Joe Biden and the establishment Democrats, but the centrists, they don't give a fuck, they don't give a damn. They just want their America. You have folks like Nancy Pelosi, who's trading stocks, but she's in the United States Congress, so she understands and knows when certain funds will be distributed to affect certain stock prices for certain companies. She understands this and she knows this, and she uses it to her advantage. When you have things like that going on, that's literally the epitome of the deep state right there. She's literally that. Have folks like this in cahoots with Biden, have great proclivity for the Biden administration and his austerity, pro-austerity type of politics. Have folks like that, then they become oblivious to how America could possibly be turning its back on Biden. We have an economy that has not truly recovered all the way, and one that has never reflected the poor, the working poor, and the barely middle class. We don't have an economy that's like that has ever represented that. So you have folks like this that are just completely out of touch, I guess is what I'm really saying. They're out of touch completely. They're willing to go down this losing drain with Biden. Something has to happen. Something must be done. We can't just stand by and watch the administration basically burn up in flames, because that's what's happening right now. And it's gonna just basically burn all the way down to the ground. That's what's gonna happen. That's what's happening right now. Biden is in unrecoverable territory. He's not a once-in-a-lifetime candidate like Barack Obama was. He can't speak like that to that degree, that eloquently, to really inspire folks to get up and do something, to mobilize folks to get up and vote. Ultimately, having them mobilized to vote, not even knowing what they're really truly voting for. That's what Obama did. That's what he did. Joe Biden can't do that. He's not that type of speaker. Trump can do that. Donald Trump can do that with his folks. But Biden is not that. He can't inspire. And then on top of that, Biden's core constituency, the folks who brought him over the finish line, you can't just throw all your hopes in their basket, because this is the plutocracy of America. Those are plutocracy type of voters. Neoliberal, pro-austerity type of voters. Folks who are democratic socially. When it comes to taxes, when it comes to their own wealth, they are fiscally conservative folks. But these are the folks that Joe Biden relied on, that brought Biden over the finish line, that flipped states like Arizona, that flipped states like Georgia, that helped solidify the industrial Midwest. These type of folks, the plutocracy of America, core constituency, and that's what helped him win the presidency. Now they have basically turned their backs on him because those are also the biggest swing voters in America. They lean towards the right. So to no surprise, they have significantly done a 180 and turned on Biden. Now we're seeing polls where in a head-to-head contest against Donald Trump, Trump is winning and winning by a couple points. And we all know how polling is when it comes to Donald Trump and his white working class voters, not merely the white working class, but just his voters point blank period, folks who are minorities, folks who are of different races, because Trump got more folks of color to vote for him last year. He got more folks of color to vote for him in 2020 than he did in 2016. So Trump is doing something right. He's patted on in many ways, and the polls cannot pick that up. So the polls have already had a hard time polling his folks, polling his voters, for the simple fact of lots of people don't want to disclose that they are a Trump supporter or a Trump voter. They don't want to let that information known because they're afraid of the potential down the line backlash they might see because of their voicement of support. So this is why pollsters have such a hard time polling Trump's folks. That meaning Trump is usually a couple points ahead of what the pollsters are showing that the numbers are. His numbers are usually a couple more points ahead of that, 2 to 3 points. Sometimes maybe even by 5 points. That's how off they can be, the margin of error can be in terms of them picking up his type of voter. So that being said, if he's already up by a couple points against Biden right now, and they already have a hard time polling his folks, that meaning you can pat on a couple more points to that totem pole, well, Biden can expect not merely to lose, but to get shellacked. That's what he can expect, to lose by a little bit, to lose by quite some margin, to where this is America saying this. But because of Biden's reliance and the neoliberal establishment, because of their reliance on the plutocracy of America, aristocrats are now in a tough position, in a tough place, because they've never had a working class message. They've never had a message for the poor, the working poor, the barely middle class. They never had that type of message. So when those same folks, those same swing voters, which are the biggest swing voters in this country, and they lean towards the right for a reason, when they just automatically turn on you, which I knew they could do in the blink of an eye, when they can do that, this is where you find yourself in these tough positions, Biden, in these horrible positions. When 2024 rolls around, expect there to be a lot of talk of possibly a primary challenge against Joe Biden, possibly an outsider coming in to challenge him, to truly challenge the system where it's at in its current moment, because it's just not working anymore. Socially liberal aristocrats can no longer control this country. That's what has to be argued in 2024 to truly take down the Biden administration, because that's what has happened. Socially liberal aristocrats, folks who are within the deep state in terms of maybe being in government, but also having business in terms of private companies, private endeavors on the outside, making a killing, making millions of dollars doing this. Joe Manchin, also the epitome of doing this, taking money from the fossil fuel industry and voting to merely enhance the fossil fuel industry, giving them all types of government subsidies and contracts, merely putting more wealth and equity into his pocket. He's the richest senator by far. Nancy Pelosi, like I said, she trades stocks, but she's in Congress. Lloyd Austin, the Secretary of Defense, he was a chairman at Raytheon, now he's the Secretary of Defense, and he controls our military, and I'm pretty sure he has a say in our military budget. Deep state. Folks who are socially liberal, but they're aristocrats. So our socially liberal aristocrats, they only care about they themselves and adding on to their wealth. They don't give a damn about you, the voter. So in 2024, the talks of a Democratic primary challenge by a progressive or someone on the left, that's gonna merely grow. That's gonna grow. Especially if his numbers decline into the 20s, because we're at that point now. If Biden's numbers plummet into the 20% range, you're gonna hear primary talk all the way up until 24, all the way up until then, because how can you not at that point? How can you not? He's literally he's looking at a loss, he's staring at a loss, literally. And then you have Kamala Harris, who's more unpopular than Hillary Clinton. It's not gonna work. It's just not gonna work. So there will be a primary challenge from a progressive, a primary challenge that this go around, third time's a charm, this go around, probably the most winnable in many ways, because if a progressive comes in and truly eviscerates the Democratic Party, but not the original vision of the Democratic Party, right? The original infrastructure of it. Eviscerate the people who have been running that party. Eviscerate the folks like Biden, like the folks like Kamala Harris, like the folks like Hillary Clinton, like the folks like Barack Obama, the folks like Nancy Pelosi, the folks like Joe Manchin. Eviscerate those folks. Paint them as socially liberal aristocrats. Obama's a more challenging person to try to eviscerate because of his clout in America and just the grip that he has on lots of voters emotionally, because he can speak to an emotional tone that no other candidate can do. So he's a little bit more harder to paint the picture against, to create the notion, the syllogism about. It's hard to do that against Obama. Everyone else, you can do that successfully. Pelosi is the most corrupt person in government, point blank, period. So you can definitely come after her. And don't get me started on the Republicans. Don't even get me started on them. But it's the crooked, neoliberal, establishment, centrist Democrats that have to be eviscerated, have to be taken out. We just have to. We're at that point in time. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, share. Peace.